All right, just give some introductions. First of all, thank you for coming out to the MNCBA, Minnesota Comic Book Association SpringCon, back at the State Fairgrounds in the Education Building. It's exciting. So, our first panel today, titled Behind the Panels with Jen Bateman, MNCBA President, is going to discuss the process of rebuilding the new Minnesota Comic Book Association and how it differs from how it was operated in the past, and give us a little bit behind the scenes and the details. Learn more about Jen.
Well, I would also like Eric to introduce himself, because you're not just the panel moderator, you're part of the team that makes all of this happen, and you're also a comic book shop owner. I've heard.
I am a comic book shop owner.
Allegedly.
I like comic books a lot. Been reading them for a long time. How many fans out there love comic books in this big audience?
It's okay. This morning has been a lot.
Yeah.
Eric is the MNCBA secretary. He's part of the executive committee. So we're the group that makes decisions for different elements of the show, what our panel programming is going to be, and those kind of things to try to put on the best show we can. So where would you like to start?
All right, I'm going to jump into it. So a lot of folks here at MNCBA, Minnesota Comic Book Association, so I'll refer to it as MNCBA throughout. We're going to jump into some personal history, like with the organization first.
Sure. So I moved to Minnesota from Texas in 2015. The decision that was a very good decision, in my opinion. I love it here. When I first came up here, I was an artist, a comic creator myself, that was tabling at the show. And every show I've ever been to, I got here and I said, this is really different. At the time, they provided free tables for comic creators, which is not something we can do anymore for financial reasons, but they feed you, which is super uncommon to unheard of at shows. And it just really had a community and almost family vibe to it that I've never experienced at another show. So after about a year, I went to an envelope stuffing, and after that, I moved on to helping with setup and tear down before and after the show. So I would be here for 2 days of setup. I would table all weekend, and I would be sweeping the grandstand or the education building after we closed on Saturday or Sunday night. So that's kind of my background. And for somebody who moved to Minnesota with no family and only really knowing a couple of people, this show became kind of my adoptive family. So it was super difficult for me, and there was definitely a grieving process that was very hard on me when that went away. So
you mentioned went away. I don't know if they're familiar with when it changed, that gap.
I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Can't hear you.
Jen mentioned when the show had went away, there was a gap there.
I left as a volunteer around COVID. There was a lot of changes. Obviously, we didn't have shows during the pandemic, but it was never quite the same when it came back. And eventually, the previous management of the show just decided to wind it down. So what happened was another long-term volunteer, a friend of mine, Stephen Henniger, decided to restart the organization. And that's when it went back to the Minnesota Comic Book Association from Midwest Comic Book Association. And we moved to MNCBA instead of the old MCBA. And then for a while it was the MCBF, but you can read more about those details on our website.
Not confusing at all.
Not confusing at all, but for anybody that follows comic book lore, I'm trying to learn some of these alternate storylines, and I got into Crisis on Infinite Earths and was kind of like, okay, comic book convention name thing, not such a big deal now.
Yeah. So once it went away, and there was welcoming, and there was opportunity that you saw for, you saw a movement that going, what personally motivated you to jump back in and seize those opportunities and try to immerse yourself for the future?
The first one is, of course, that this is really something special. This is unique among all conventions I've ever been to. I didn't want it to be gone. I have a lot of experience in online marketing and branding. I had been begging for the opportunity to do some of the things I'm getting to do now for a very long time. So it was like, now's my chance. I've been sitting on the bench going, let me in, coach, forever. And finally, with Steve in charge, I got the opportunity to do that. I am a huge process nerd. So I love systems. I love building things. I love seeing things that work. So we're very focused on making this into a real grown-up nonprofit organization. We put an app in place to manage our volunteer scheduling. We have very organized forms for the vendors to fill out, the exhibitors to fill out for their applications. We have the online ticketing, which, like I mentioned, I'm a little frazzled right now. You probably saw me outside with my megaphone. His name is Tootie. Out front, scanning tickets, getting people checked in before the doors opened. If you came to any of the old shows, you might remember it being almost 11 o'clock and there's still lines wrapped around the building. I come from a customer service background. I said, we don't want to do that anymore. At least half an hour before doors, we're out there scanning tickets to check people in so that at 10 o'clock, you open it up, show your wristband, you can come on in and get the most out of your day. So it's all those little kind of things, setting up these systems that it's very satisfying to see them work, makes a better experience for the volunteers because everyone knows what's going on. Longer term, I want to have an employee handbook essentially so that we can give a packet to new volunteers that's going to just help them know what's going on at all times, know what's expected of them, and all of those good things so there's less confusion, and really just make it so that it's sustainable in the way that I set the processes up and I get the system established. Then I find the right people to fill the different roles that I've set up and put them in those roles and train them. And then I will continue to act as their training wheels less and less and less until they don't need me anymore. So our volunteer coordinator, our volunteer system is a perfect example of that. I researched the app, I got it all set up. Matt, our volunteer coordinator, he wrote the introduction to our program for the show. I said, this is your baby now, and I gave it to him. And he still needs a little help. I jump in and assist. He gets overwhelmed. I'll jump in and assist, but I want to pull that back. And so as I've gone through the different areas of the show, I've done that with, okay, what's the next thing I need to work on? What's the best way to solve this problem? How do we make it so that basically anybody who wants to volunteer can step in and be trained to use this system? It's not one person with a bunch of proprietary information in their head, and nobody else knows what's going on. So that's been a problem in the past. You know, one person or a group of people keeping everything to themselves, and then when something happens, no one else knows what's going on. So no matter how good their intentions are, that kind of thing is not sustainable. So I like to train people, develop people. That's kind of my happy place. So that's what we're doing right now.
So with that being said, Jen, I know personally does a tremendous amount of work, excellent job. You were pointing out some things that you've been adding to the kind of the logistics and the function of the con.
Sure.
Can you share a little bit about it? When you said add, they literally did not have some of these things to avoid certain pitfalls or different things that presented challenges in the past. And do you feel that the things that you add, if there's more of them that you want to share about, do you feel the positive impact where the show is moving now? Can you see that?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, admissions was my very first focus, right? Because if you're running an event, everybody's first experience is coming to the door. And I want everybody to have the best experience possible at the door, because if you have a bad time at the door, you're going to already be in a bad mood by the time you get in. And that's just going to spiral down from there. So our first focus was improving admissions. And we've definitely seen an impact from that. We're out there scanning tickets. Everybody's like, what do we do? I'm like, this way. I got my megaphone over here. You're in the line. You can buy your ticket on your phone. You can come over there, get it scanned, and walk right in. So the feedback on that has been wonderful. Other improvements, especially some of our older vendors who are less, I should say older, that's not nice. I should say less computer savvy, because that could be anybody. But the forms we're using now for our artists, I set it up so that it says upload your art samples here. One thing that I do that we didn't used to do is promote the vendors, because why would you come to the show if you don't know what's at the show, right? That's been a process because the vendors aren't used to that. Why do you want pictures from me? I want to advertise you. But once I've gone to the trouble to explain to people what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, they're like, oh, that makes sense, which is why I wanted the chance to talk to you today and why I wanted the chance to talk on camera, even though I'm a little keyed up right now. Want to move. Is that I want more transparency too. I want the people to come to the show to understand why we do things a certain way. If you have suggestions or thoughts or feedback, we want to hear that. But the feedback has been great. I think things are getting easier for everyone. It's definitely in the things that you don't see. We've got a much better system for managing the floor plan now, using technology that we didn't have before in the past, and just finding ways to make the work of running the show less actual work, so that the people that run it can also have their own life. I will straight up tell you, I am a freak. I have really bad ADHD. I take medication for it. And if I don't get 10,000 steps on my pedometer a day, I can't sleep. I love to work. I hit the ground running every morning and I collapse at night. I get up super early. I work a really early first shift. I don't expect everybody to work like me, but I want to make the work that other people have more enjoyable, easier, not frustrating. And so far, I think everything we have implemented has really just, everybody's given us good feedback and we seem to be on the right track.
Yes, and with that feedback, mentioning about the feedback, how are you incorporating that from a leadership standpoint into the events, like changes that are made, capturing and sharing it with the public?
We're looking at the feedback in aggregate, which is where it's most helpful. Because if I have one person telling me something, sometimes it could just be a particular pet peeve of theirs, or it could be they just got confused. Somebody's out there, he can't find his ticket and he's getting frustrated, but it's because he forgot who the email came from. So when the feedback, when we have multiple people telling us things, that's really when we know we need to focus in on that area and respond in some kind of way. On our exhibitor side is the first example I can think of. Something that's always been an issue in the past is the setup emails. So I always have a bunch of emails from people who, I didn't get the setup email. When can I come in? What do I do? We have a mailing list set up now. It's very organized. We get all our exhibitors in as contacts. So we got a set up email. I can actually see who didn't open it. So I resent it a second time to the people who didn't open it. So maybe. And so it's little things like that. Anything that the vendors or exhibitors, artists, creators tell us that would help make their experience easier. And on the attendee side too. So
with that being said, the cool thing about that, hearing how feedback is utilized, is understanding that the MNCBA is a nonprofit and it's all of our show. So everyone's feedback is super important and it's all being collected and reviewed. And so everyone actually, your input matters in the direction of what we have in pulling us together as a community. And that being said, that we are a nonprofit. Jen, will you share a little bit about that focus? Because I know that was high on your list of getting that all done with all your community efforts.
So one of my longer term focuses is the organization as a nonprofit. Back when I first started coming, they always said not for profit. It was actually a for-profit organization. So when we reformed, we're actually a 501c3. And so one of the ways that we want to continue to distinguish this organization from other comic conventions in town is longer term, when we are better staffed and have more resources, start doing very small events in local libraries. I would like the organization to be sort of a hub for local comic creators. So I occasionally have a librarian or a teacher write us and they say, I would like a comic creator to come talk to my art class. And I would say, tell me where you're at and what kind of artists you're looking for. I might have someone I could put you in touch with. On our website, I created a page specifically for Minnesota comic book creators where people can opt in to be listed there if they want to be contacted. We are working on a directory of Minnesota comic book stores. And so we really want to offer more opportunities to help educate people about comics, to help educate people about the comic book industry, and to eventually be more of a resource for the creators that make comics.
And with that, that focuses another reason I believe that makes this whole convention one of the stronger, long-standing conventions in the Twin Cities, and it's going to be here for a very long time because it's all of ours, right? Super important stuff. But on the leadership side, I'm going to jump back into the logistics of running this show. So coming in kind of as an outsider, you're not your standard typical comic book guy. Can you share a little insight into that, and challenges, if there were challenges, and how did you navigate into a predominantly male space and take this whole thing by the reins?
It's been a process. Comic books, the comic book industry is still a very male-dominated space. There are guys who really don't want to give someone that looks and sounds like me a chance. So I've had a lot of hurdles to overcome. It feels like I probably have to work 3 times as hard to get to the same place as someone else might who looked a little different. That being said, it's certainly not universal. I would say that the people that we have on our team now are all very supportive of me. They see the good work that I'm doing. We're building a good team. We're bringing in volunteers. It is unfortunate that it feels sometimes there are people who would rather make things difficult for everyone, including themselves, rather than let me get a win. And that's too bad. But Jen doesn't give up easily. So I can wait it out. So it has been challenging, and I haven't at times been shy about vocalizing some of that in the past, but it is improving. I have seen improvements, and I think at the end of the day, the work that I'm doing will speak for itself. That, we have a good crowd out today. You see the solid image of the show finally coming together online. People know who we are. And I think that over time, just to reiterate, that the work will speak for itself.
I make Jen's life difficult for other reasons. Eric, did you check that email yet? Anyway, so with that, we do see a lot of the positive movement in the show as a whole. Your efforts are being recognized, and we all do appreciate you. So here's an interesting thing. So some of you are being introduced to Jen Bateman as the new showrunner of the MNCBA. But how many of you know that Jen is also a creator and a writer, artist, a very talented? Oh, we got one person over there.
You got a Bucky's hat. Hi.
Yeah.
I'm from Texas.
So, behind the scenes, being a creator, so what is that like, trying to navigate the space of running the show, but at the same time, there's work that you have to do, that beautiful work. So I'm privileged. I get to see some behind the scenes stuff before it's released. But what is that like, navigating, being the creator, running the show, all in tangent?
Well, I think the hardest thing is time management. Obviously, I'm a really slow artist because I'm super persnickety. Even working digitally like I do now, I do my rough drafts on traditional media, and then I digitally ink them because I will ink a piece for 8 hours and decide I don't like it and tear it up and start over. So when I started my latest comic, all the inking is digital. So if I really don't like it, I can just erase it and do it again. I'm a little behind on my personal projects right now because of the work of doing this. If you've never run something of this size or been involved in this, it's pretty much impossible to overstate how much work it is. But a lot of the work that I'm doing is things like setting up our volunteer management app, getting our website built and fleshed out. These are things that have a large upfront time cost. They will save time in the longer run. So my hope is that over time I can balance these things better. Up until this iteration of the show, I used to table. I am on the autism spectrum, if you don't know. Talking to people wears me out, so I don't table anymore. I like doing this where I can do things and then take a break if I need to. In terms of being a showrunner that's also a creator, that's actually super uncommon from what I understand, in addition to just not being a dude. But this show in particular has always been very focused on the creators in terms of making sure the artists are taken care of, and writers, making sure the creators are taken care of, making sure they feel welcome, making sure their needs are met. And so as a creator myself, I think it gives me additional perspective in terms of understanding the things that I can do that are going to benefit essentially my colleagues the most. So one of the first changes I did is most shows will only promote their headline guests, and kind of everybody else gets an also ran somewhere on the website. I make promos for every single creator that sends me material that is of a quality that I can use it to promote them, because why would I not give all my creators the tools they need to help promote themselves at the show? I write a lot of ad copy. They need it. I will help them punch up their bios. I will give them tips, talk to them on the floor. So in particular, a lot of the tools I developed to market myself in the past due to being autistic and other reasons. If you take the time to read my autobiographical work, and I will warn you, it's a difficult read at times, I don't really feel comfortable using those things on myself anymore, but I have the skill set I developed. Steve. Oh, hi. I thought that was old Steve. Sorry. He's always sneaky taking pictures of me when I don't know. Is that I have all these tools and skills that I developed to essentially market myself, but over time it made me feel like I was a product, and it made me really depressed, and I hated it. But I have these skills that were going to waste, and it turns out that I really love using them when it's to promote a show and everybody else, because the show can be a product, right? But it's not me feeling like I'm a can of beans sitting on a shelf trying to convince somebody to buy it. Does that make sense? So I just feel like being essentially one of them, one of us, helps me better to serve the community that is my main focus to serve. Because if we don't take care of the comic creators, there are no comic books. You know, it's just buying and selling old back issues forever. So it's the next generation and current generation and past generation of comic book creators we need to take care of if we want to continue to have these books to enjoy.
And in this digital age, I don't know if this is available for the public to see, but I've seen video of Jen inking pages. I enjoy it. I know there's all kinds of weird videos. People, what do they call it? Mukbang, where they watch people eat and all that kind of stuff. It's very therapeutic watching this individual ink pages. It's amazing. Well, with that, first of all, thank you everybody for showing up. But as we round out here, coming down to our last 10 minutes, I do want to make sure that we have time. There may be specific questions more about Jen in their career as an illustrator, or just as a creative writer, or there may be questions that you have specifically regarding the show, the future of the show, what plans are. But I'd like to open the floor up to see if anyone has anything that they want to ask.
Any questions?
We got
Yes.
one over here. I'll swing out so we can
Okay.
get audio.
As my name's Tyler, I did a couple of the past MNCBA shows in the past, and I've done this show, and I've done like the big corporate shows. I realized that you guys do emphasize a lot on the creators, where the big shows is like they just pick it's more of who the celebrity is. They hardly advertise any of the creators at all. And there's another show I did in Tennessee, where it was pretty much just advertising the big people and not like any of the artists at all. So it's really nice to get that appreciation, where it's really hard for the bigger shows just to break through.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for sharing that feedback. It's more of a
Yeah, this has never been one of the big celebrity shows. I like to say it's a really big, little, old-fashioned comic book show, and those are becoming more and more rare these days. And as somebody who works a day job because I want to be able to make the comic books that I want to make without having to worry about will it sell or anything like that, this is something that I personally want to protect, is that it's a show focused more on the people that make the books and the people that read the books, and not celebrities or corporate sponsorships necessarily, and those kind of things. That we want to keep it community focused and people first.
Yeah, thank you for the comment, the feedback. Are there any other questions anyone may have? Do you have any questions at all? Okay, well, I guess we're wrapping early. You
All
want
right,
to
so we can.
share some more?
I'm sure they need me back up at attendance. So on my way here, I had about 10 people. Hey, Jen, no time to talk.
Right.
Eric's waiting for me.
Yeah, so thank you everybody once again for stopping in for the panel. I will actually, before folks go, share with you. You notice I'm not wearing a SpringCon shirt. I did that intentionally because some may not know. There's two shows for the Minnesota Comic Book Association. We have the SpringCon in the spring, and in the fall, we have the FallCon. This is a 2-day show. So the one-day wonder, as it was referred to, takes place in the spring in the education building, and the FallCon takes place in the fall, October.
It's going to be October 11th and 12th this year.
October 11th and 12th, and that takes place in the grandstand, and it's just as epic, if not more. So please do check that out, follow that, stay tuned on the MNCBA.org.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody again who came out today. I want to thank everybody at the show, even though they can't hear me right now. I want to thank everybody out in internet. I have forgotten how to talk. I need a drink of water.
That's
I
right.
want to thank everybody out in internet land. There, I got through it. Everybody watching this after the fact, even though you probably won't be able to hear Eric in the video because he keeps getting the microphone too far away from his mouth. It's okay. It's okay. Subtitles there.
That's right. Closed caption.
I want to thank Rusty, who's behind the camera there. You can't see him.
Thank
You
you,
can
Rusty.
find his picture on our website. And that's it. Thanks a bunch. I'm happy to have you here. I'm grateful for every single one of you, and even the ones that didn't come listen to me talk today.
Thanks, guys.